Hello and welcome to the Beth of Fresh Air. It's Friday, June 26, 2026. Oh, we got a bunch of 26s in there. And this actually was going to be the show where we did Denickled 2, and that will be coming up probably next week if Dagmar is available. But we wanted to cover something with Micah Ellars today and talk about the multiple layers of staging and what that's like and how it relates to the work that we're doing right now. So without further ado, I will invite Micah to come on. I'll not invite him, I'll bring him on. Hello, Micah. How are you?
Hey, good to be here, Beth.
Good to have you here. Come and say hi in the chat if you're there. These discussions are always more interesting when there's some contributors and thoughts going on, what you're going through in your life. And full disclosure, today I feel pretty nickled, and so hopefully I can stay nice and lucid with you guys. That would be awesome. And just had a nice little drive out to the country this morning to pick up some undisclosed turkeys. The location was undisclosed, but I got the turkeys.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty good. What a weird lifestyle, and yet interesting as well. You know, a little bit more back to procuring foods in ways that it's just not like here in Manitoba, for example. I don't know if this is happening other places, but the government is proposing to make its own grocery stores.
Oh my God. What's the deal with the turkeys? Are they regulate? Like you can't buy?
Just that I want the cleanest meat possible, and it's not a given. And like I actually can't get turkey for some reason. I probably can get something, but
Wow.
yeah. Even the world of organics can be really tricky because it's not necessarily that it's unsafe, although there's a lot of different loopholes they can get through, and just like the freshness and all that kind of thing. So it's
Well, it's funny because this morning I have a whole like flock or gaggle or whatever you call them of wild turkeys on the front porch in the front yard. So maybe you should come here and take a couple of them with you.
bring my shotgun.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. It's funny.
Right.
Yes. I don't know what they are. They're probably eating garbage. I mean, God knows what they're eating in the city. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we're warming up for today's show. I'll say hello to Mike New. Great to have you here. Glad you could make it. And I was wondering about what's your opinion on wild meat out there, say from a love your liver perspective. Do you think it would be more or less toxic?
it depends. I mean, it's kind of like take the grass-fed concept in general. Like the deeper, richer grasses actually have more carotenoids than if an animal was eating grain. Grain doesn't have a lot. It has other problems, especially if it's GMO, it's full of toxins and stuff, right? Pesticides and all that. But if so, technically, like that's why like a lot of like wild bison, buffalo, stuff like that will have a yellow fat rind to it because it has even more carotenoids. Just like sometimes grass-fed butter can be like extremely yellow, almost orange, and it's so from that. If you're like vitamin A watching, it's a little higher in that. So but the fat profile is better on the grass-fed. You get more omega-3 versus the PUFAs and the 6. So it's kind of, I don't think it's like the end all be all, but the funny thing is that from that perspective, the grain fed is a little better if it's like organic or where the grains are coming from.
Right. I bet they feed them whole grains, not refined grains.
Right. Yeah.
Iron
Absolutely.
and poison metals and that kind of things.
I don't even know. That's funny you say that. I don't even know if there are cattle you can get fed refined grains. Like that would be an interesting experiment because then you would have no lectins, no carotenoids at all. So I wonder what the effect. I mean, maybe the closest thing is like the beer fed Kobe, stuff in Japan. But anyway, but that's like a sick animal anyway that never moves and is like living in a sling and so
and mega high fat, right? Isn't that the idea with that one?
It's like half fat or more. Yeah, marble.
Right. Yeah, I think I was telling Dagmar. Now, when I get fat from a piece of meat in my mouth, I have this instant. It used to be that we were brainwashed that the reason meat tastes good is because of the fat, and now I'm so clear that's the part that doesn't taste good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Like where your
Mhm.
mind shifts around. Because I remember going through those stages too. Like, oh, the fat's good, and then you kind of realize like it's kind of toxic. Maybe I shouldn't eat as much of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we train ourselves to like poison because
Hmm.
if you have to be exposed to it day after day after day throughout your lifetime, you can't continue to have an aversion to it.
Right.
And it kind of relates to what we're talking about too, where there is a propensity to, we're an upside down world. We're an upside down world in here more. That's kind of the purpose of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And so there gets to be an attachment to that or a liking of that upside downness, liking of the lies, wanting to be lied to, wanting to be controlled.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. It's like wanting to smoke your cherry vape all day.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of cherry bakes, I think I am flushing from niacin. I'm not
Oh,
sunburned, just so you guys know.
okay.
Yeah, good old niacin.
Yeah.
And yeah, so today we're going to talk about the reason I called it Stage It is for many reasons. The word stage actually has a lot of play in it because it has different meanings. It's related to your work as a filmmaker and an acting coach and a screenwriter, and you obviously have spent not only time working to put people on stage, you've been on stage yourself, and then back to that quote that all the world's a stage. Is that Shakespeare? I meant to look that up or something. Do you know who said that?
Yeah. I mean, it's attributed to Shakespeare. Like,
Attributed, right?
if you believe that Shakespeare was a person.
Allegedly said
What's
by
that?
Shakespeare. Allegedly said by Shakespeare.
Allegedly, yeah. It's
Yeah,
accredited to Shakespeare, but I'm not sure that that was a single person.
there you go. Yeah. Hello to Ellie McBeal, by the way. Really nice to have you in the chat here. If you feel to, uh, when somebody comes, she's going to ask you to like this video, but I could ask you to like it now anyway, which does help, I think, to get it out a little bit. Try not to be depressed how sadly these things just don't really make their way out, or they don't want me to know that they do make their way out. So that's why it's important to come and connect a little bit more without the interloper of a YouTube or a Rumble where we are live right now, and say hello at my website. There, I've got a contact page. I've got a quiz where you can, in 10 minutes, find out where you are on the path of purpose. Oh, and the like patrol is here, Jackie. So fun. And you're 9 minutes late, Jackie. I can't believe it. And we did change the time today, so that might be a little bit of confusion for people. But yeah, I always very much welcome Jackie prompting me to do that. And hello, Audrey. Great to have you in the chat here. It's really nice to work with you in our last course. And so then, since I interrupted myself, all the world is a stage. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was very suspicious of Shakespeare in general because there he was in an elitist position in his life, right? You don't get to have your name become household for decades and decades without there being some kind of artificial push forward, and you're even intimating right away that maybe it's an invention altogether, that he didn't exist.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so much like that in our history. I mean, I'm more certain that he was kind of created by Francis Bacon and a consortium of other like Masonic entities that, yeah, there's a lot of evidence. I mean, we don't, that would take a long time, but if you really research that, I think it's most likely the case. But we know Shakespeare, we know the works of Shakespeare, we know the canon, and it is what it is. They're still great works, they're still important, but I agree with you. When you become the household name for eternity, there's usually a little bit of like today we have with the algorithms, you get a little boost, right? So there was a boost coming from somewhere. There's a reason why you're being remembered.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And Ellie's saying hi to her mom, and you knew the time, but life happens. And you agree the FMs run it all. The FMs, what are the FMs?
Freemasons.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're not supposed to say that. No,
Oh, sorry.
don't worry.
Yeah.
That's why she's FMing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I transposed it. I went MF.
Okay.
Yep. Then that'd be a swear.
They flag.
Mofo.
Is that a dirty word on YouTube?
I've seen people censor their own words on that. Yeah, that it can be one of those, oddly.
Okay.
Who knows anymore? I don't know. I'm still too little in this channel to get any strikes, I think, but I'm still cautious regardless. Just to
No, yeah. I mean, I just that one I wasn't sure if they had gotten. We can just call them aprons.
aprons. Okay. Yeah, my son tuned himself right into it without me ever saying. I didn't go down that road with him at all, and he just researched the heck out of it and blames them for everything now. So that's
Well,
true.
they're not. I don't know that you can. It's more than they're not actually the top at all of the. They're just a layer, if you will.
They're right, a layer of the multiple everythings.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I
Kind of
was
a ground layer. It's kind of they're not the top.
exactly. Yeah, Mike is saying Shakespeare was probably a collection of different writers compiled, which
Yeah,
kind of makes sense, like the Bible or whatever.
yeah. Like the Bible, there wasn't a single author, and like anyone that's done any scholarship would immediately. You'd have to be very naive to believe that.
Yeah, and that title, The Bible, that's very misleading.
Right.
Yeah, even though there's lots of good ones. And Jackie likes your term apron, so we'll use that from now on. I was going to say that a guy who goes by Anonymous Guest on the King Hero chat this morning shared a very brilliant video. And this relates to the one that you and I just talked about. I'm going to get the link to the chat so people can find that. And so we did a good video. I wrote an article on hopium, and then Mike and I did a great video. That's right now being some people have it, and some of you guys have signed up for a video series that Mike and I did. We have actually really good interest. 175 people already signed up to see this little video series, where first it started out, I just wanted to know the background of Micah's story, because you say a lot of great stuff, and my journalistic mind wants to know, like, what's the background? What was the genesis and evolution of that? So we did a video on that. You agreed to let me start sharing that with people, but in a private way, not in social media. So just so you guys know, these videos you can't download at this point. It's coming on an email, but you can watch them. We did two more. One was on the false light, false gurus, when I was awakening to a new level of violence in the cult that I was in. We did one on how your life changes, but more particular, how your relationship with yourself changes when you start to remember who you are. And then our last one we did, we thought we were going to stop, but we can't stop. And it is on hopium. Very, very amazing. I really enjoyed doing that one with you. There was some serious revelations going on there. And if you want to hear the video or watch the video, I'm going to try to track this guy down. And there's the Telegram chat. I don't know if that works for you guys. Actually, it's not a link, is it? So, but you can go to Telegram and use that @King Hero chat to find it. And he also is very, very adamant about teaching people about the hopium. This is right up my alley, because he's saying that the truth movement actually ended up being the machine to keep perpetuating the controlled demolition that's going on in our society, right? So and this is something I've woken up to very slowly over time myself. It's why I reject the vast majority of truth or content these days, and I'm not sharing it around. You'll notice that my group sometimes can get quiet, because people know that that's not really the place for a lot of that fear porn and stuff like that going on. So I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to track him down for an interview as well. And so if we come back to the stage, it is a place that is known to us in the world of entertainment and in selling a house. And now it's called staging. You're staging something. And people who've gone deep into the law, they know that the courts are a kind of stage where certain scripts are read, and there's a certain kind of set design going on, designed to put you in a particular state of consciousness when you're in there. I firmly believe that how architecture affects your internal psyche. And so, then there's the actors in what we've identified as, in the freedom movement, as the actors, and that's come to mean liars, those who are pretending. And even if we start going back to the days of so-called Shakespeare, if that's true, Jackie said all politicians take acting lessons. Right? That was so funny. Quick aside about Trudeau. He's the worst actor ever. And yet that was his job. He was an acting teacher in high schools. But he was so barfy as an actor, it made me finally wonder if he had been trained to be a bad actor that would make you sick every time you heard him speak.
It's pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of them are. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how people stomach it, but
Right. Or Trump, like now everybody is mimicking and imitating his weird inflections and stuff like that. So yeah, that acting training, we also know that there's such thing as crisis actors in our world that are hired to go and embellish some kind of occurrence in the world, whether it happened or it didn't happen or whatever. It seems to require actors. And so this has become ubiquitous. It's not just a movie thing anymore. It's at every stage. Now, Micah's and my interest is much more in the internal stage.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because you can spend the whole entire life trying to unpack where you're being led astray and, trying to find the agenda and the propaganda in every piece and letting it all have your attention, which is in fact what the stage is designed for. Do you want to talk about that? How even on the outside world, before we get to the inner, how they'll, like, what are the aims of the stage creators, the set designers, the directors, which you have been, right, of your own films? I don't know if you've done like theater kind of productions. It doesn't really matter because a stage is a stage.
Yeah. No, I've done that as well. Yeah. But what was the question you're saying?
So
Like,
what's the like underlying agenda? And that's not considered dark. That's just like the mechanical way of.
as an actor or a director, when you're putting on a scene or a stage, is that what you mean? Like in general, what is that?
Yeah, like, and I'm even panning out a little bit more to start. Sorry for the sirens. Someone told me I should sing along to those. I haven't figured out exactly how. And because they come and go so fast. But there's a certain, say you showed up to a public event of some kind and there was no stage, it would right away make certain things not happen. Like, what is the function of that stage?
Of like the state, like, so just in general, what is the function of a stage?
Yeah, what does it want you to do, like in the creation of it? That.
Yeah. Well, what we do is the stage is a space in which we're allowing ourselves to go into um, a place of aesthetic dissonance where we're projecting our consciousness and we're allowing whatever happens in that space to be entertained. We identify with it, like we talk in the work, like the Gurdjieff work and stuff. Identification is a big part. We're willingly identifying the same way we do with the TV screen. We're saying, hey, I'm focusing on this, and I understand that what's happening in the stage is going to be fictitious, but my job is to surrender myself to be open to believing it. And so it's like it becomes a willing uh, uh, delusion, but that's what we do. And then because we want the after effect of it, I mean, it's entertaining if it's done correctly. And then ultimately deep down, we're looking for a sense of meaning, right? So those of us that are story hungry, we want that. We know that through experience, we can actually develop a sense of meaning that we can't just get intellectually. If you could, then you could just like read a statement or look at a picture and get it. But with the play or a movie, it's a time-based, dramatic medium, and it's the experience, it's the art form that matters, right? And so we willingly surrender to that, understanding that in exchange for us to put our participation in and surrender to this fictitious setting, we could get something back out of it. And we participate by paying attention. And so that's kind of the first principle of it.
That's very cool. What did you call it? The aesthetic something? I
Whole
thought
distance. Yeah.
aesthetic dissonance. Yeah. Can you describe it? What does that mean?
Well, it's kind of like the concept of cognitive dissonance, but it's like instead you're willingly allowing something to appeal to the senses and giving it permission to not be real. So it's a controlled, you're in a controlled delusion, right? Because if you really think about it, when you're watching a play or a movie, there are moments where you're so identified, it feels real to you. You're crying with the characters, laughing with them, you're in shock. So in the moment, you're actually crazy. I mean, if you think about it, like you're allowing something completely false to be real, but that's the only way we get the experience, because then the emotions become real, right? And so that's kind of the trade-off that you make, is you're willing to suspend your disbelief, right? And if it's done well, it's so compelling that you get sucked right up and then you can't turn away, right? Like you won't leave. You want to see how it ends, right? And that's kind of the relationship.
Yeah. And even if it's late, you can't turn it off, and you need to know what happens and what comes next and everything. I do find, I'm not trying to congratulate myself, but I do find that I have much less emotional reaction to it than I ever had. In fact, you did send me to one movie that you said was a real crier, and I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was expecting to. I was, and I don't know if that means I'm dead inside or what is happening. But
Which film was that?
Have to.
It was a real cry.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of, maybe, is it the one that you guys watched on the plane? What was it called? Oh, I went and closed it, so I don't know.
No,
It was
Gilbert
the
Grape.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah. No, What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Oh, that's it.
I wouldn't say it. No. It's a real. I wouldn't say it on its own is a real crier. It was more of I was relating it to myself in a way. No, the film, but it's emotionally. I think it's a good coming of age. I don't know did you like it? What do you think?
Yeah, I did like it. Yeah. It was good. There was something was a little bit weird about it in terms of. I think I'm like up to my eyeballs in absurdity. I actually want the film to convince me of some reality. And what you're speaking to, it's like I want to fully surrender, but I can't, because there's these absurdities that take place that are just, like you can sort of maybe possibly think it's real, but it's turned into a caricature. So yeah.
Well, that's the part where you see, that's the part with the dissonance, is like you actually have to give it permission, because if you're standing on guard, you'll never be hooked by any film. If you're constantly in your critical mind, then it's like, I know this isn't real. Oh, I know that part. Like you can get into the technicals, like, oh, I know they were using a dolly to move the camera in, and I know where the microphone would have been placed on that shot, or where the lights were. And then you're not in the state. So it does take like a childlike kind of playfulness to really, so you have to turn part of your brain off, honestly, if you're
Right.
you're gonna get sucked up into a film, or a play,
Which is probably the draw, right? Because when you turn your brain off, then you do get a sense of escape and as if relief, and painkiller style, where you get out of your own thoughts, your own worries, your own whatever you have to do, and you just give yourself permission to melt in front of a screen.
That's right. That's where I think that movies and play, that kind of entertainment, should be considered almost like a treat when it comes to food.
Right.
Because it is an indulgence. It can be good. Like they can feed and nourish your soul in a way, just like ice cream can. Like sometimes you just need that emotional boost or whatever, but you have to realize that it kind of works to your detriment, especially like people that binge watch TV shows and movies, their life just goes to crap because they're kind of on an opiate all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I've gone through different phases of that too, and it's the antithesis to creating. You did
Mhm.
my creator code course, and that's hard work. That's like bleeding on the page every day if you're writing or whatever, you're trying to create something from nothing, and the first iteration of anything is crap. So even if you get something out, it's going to probably be a lot of work to get it to a good place or a professional kind of place.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's just so easy to take in. I can see myself going in waves where I have like huge amount of creative output. And then there's this just like, no, I'm done. And I'm not just going to go to sleep. So I'm going to start taking in. There's been some good books. You sent some amazing books my direction. Some of
Mhm.
Gurdjieff's books that I've been reading, and that seems to be a little bit less of a just. There's something about the multimedia and the stage where things are staged that it's like what you want to talk about what the difference is there when you're say reading words
Like the
compared
difference
to.
between a book versus seeing a play or a movie with
Mhm,
actors. The book requires more imagination. It
mhm,
requires more active cognition. Like if you're to look at somebody's brain on a, like an EKG or EEG, anything where you can look at brain waves, you'll see that when you're reading, it's fully engaging. Because think about it, you have to imagine the things that you're reading, right? And then with TV shows, movies, and plays are more what's known as cool media, where you don't have to bring much to the table, right? So it allows you to be more trance-like, more relaxed, right? Which is also why they're more pleasurable in that way, because you're more and more in like a hypnotic. You kind of get hypnotized, but the books are harder to do that because you have to consciously be reading, and then you're bringing the image, the sound, the texture, the feeling. Instead of the filmmakers, right, or the playwrights and the directors.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, it feels like there's much more engagement in that than when it's just being fed to you.
Yeah.
And one of the functions of the stage that I discovered early on in my life was that it's designed to separate, to create a place where there are those that are the entertainers, if you want to call it that, or for whatever purpose the stage is there. And then
Mhm.
there are those that are not. So if you're on the stage, you're one, and if you're not on the stage, then you're not that. And so
Right.
there's this distinct separation where I remember my father saying, I was trying to promote at the time, for better or for worse, that hunter-gatherer societies, as I was studying anthropology, were so smart because they only needed about 4 hours a day to make their living to be able to survive.
Right.
And we went to work for 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, or my son's been doing 88 hours a week, and just insane numbers. And he said, yes, but they don't have, maybe I told you this already, but they don't have the symphony, and they don't have the ballet, and they don't have all of these high arts institutions. And then I said, yeah, but then they have their own time to dance and to sing and to play instruments and to entertain themselves in a way that isn't necessarily performative, which is not to say performance is inherently wrong, but
Mhm.
that so I'm probably still romanticizing culture that way. And if you threw me into the uh, forest with the bushmen, I doubt I'd be that happy about it either.
Nature is brutal. There's a trade-off, but it's not as simple as even that. It's because there's a nuanced part that is kind of overlooked a lot of times, which is really the reason that we have to overwork like that is statecraft.
Mm,
Right? So, like, let's say you actually had a true, like, free market where people could keep the fruits of their labor and you would have so much more net abundance that your son wouldn't have to work 88 hours. Do you see what I'm the problem is you're being fleeced, right? You're being sheared at every capacity, and not only directly, but then there's inflation, right? So there's the hidden tax that everyone pays. And that so really the civilization is not an organic thing. What could be there is an organic way of doing it. Like people could create cities and markets and stuff, but what we think of as civilization, as per the way it is really statecraft, which is really human livestock management, and it's not for your benefit, right? So you still could work 4 hours a day. You know, do you get what I mean? And you could have the symphony and you could have all those things. It's not, but we're taught, oh, in order to have that, we must have this, right? And that's the way we've been propagandized to accept, oh, but you wouldn't have cars or you wouldn't have the internet or you would. And that's not true. The system is set up as a business and it works very well for the people that run it.
Yeah, well said. That's awesome. Yeah, my son is one of those that he actually checks all the details on his pay stubs and sees, oh, this week I am sending, or yeah, this week, or I don't know if it's 2 weeks. I'm sending $400 to the government.
Yeah.
And I've always been one to like just glaze over and not look at those numbers directly, so I don't get mad every day about.
You have to, or you'd be so depressed you wouldn't. You see how it works. We all do. It's what everybody does with the system, right? And then
Yes.
and you don't even consciously see. And it's
Yeah.
really bad. Yeah. The fractional reserve system allows them to create a monetary supply that's always expanding. So it's therefore always extracting wealth from you. And like, so you can't it's designed that you don't get ahead, right?
Yeah, and more so than ever, because it was a little bit more of an illusion that was possible before. And
Well,
yep,
sometimes it is though. There are periods, in history where you have a little bit more freedom. There's a little bit more, and then things spring into abundance. Like the United States, for example, had a profound experience of that. There were almost no taxes, for example, for several generations, and we saw world wonders. Like New York City was built rapidly, like a city unparalleled on the planet because of that. And then once there's too much productivity, the powers that be come in and they start clamping down. And now you pay most of your income just in taxes alone, right?
Yeah.
Not counting inflation, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Jackie was just saying you see the same crisis actors at different PSYOP events. And hello, Quietly Content Bear. Nice to have you here today. So this is to set up the stage, to set the stage for what is really a more profound stage event inside of our own psyches. It also has characters and it has storylines, and it does require certain sets that are different from person to person for all of that to take place.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I'm taking this metaphor too far. There might be, how do we set the stage in our own psyche? And when it comes down to it, people's interaction with each other is very, not based on what's going on really between them. Or have you ever had that experience where I recently had somebody ask me a question? So they asked a question, meaning it appeared that there was some opening for the answer that I might have. So, because I like questions and answers, I immediately gave the answer. I had it and I gave it, and they didn't hear it. And they asked the question again, and I said the answer again, and they still didn't hear me say the answer. And this was fascinating because they were hooked into this question, and obviously there was some interest in the answer. And so I had to. There was another time where it was, I just said that, and then they follow through, and I just said that. It's just a no connection going on at the level of the words. And would you say that's because there's some internal stage already at play?
Yeah, they're not listening. So like, kind of in the acting work we did where we talk about Meisner's problems and stuff, like all bad acting or unbelievable acting is because the actor is either self-conscious or not listening. And in life, we're doing the same thing. And most of the time when we're talking, we're only waiting to say what we want to say, or we're looking for the sound bite that we were expecting. And when you become aware of it, it's amazing how you can notice that people don't process everything. I would say that the person had something like a preformed agenda. They wanted the conversation to go a certain way, or for you to say a certain thing, or they wanted to say something and then you weren't giving them what they wanted. So they couldn't, there was no framework in their mind to accept that, and it's like a weird glaze of denial that happens. But you see it a lot when you become really aware. It's just like how when someone's talking, or when you're talking to someone and you see them micro moving their mouth. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
because they're just working on what they're about to say. So they're not listening to you.
Exactly. It's why I'll take notes while I'm doing interviews, by the way, so that I can stay listening. And this is, for me, all would be lost if I couldn't listen to the person that I was talking with. Right? It would make no sense. There would be no fluidity, no thread to follow. And so I have the same thing. It's like, oh, there's a thing I can relate to, or I want to comment on or emphasize. And I'll just quickly make a note so I can come back and give my full attention. And I just did that. I wrote down the word listening to remind me, because it's nice to be able to catch the thread also of things that you want to contribute,
Yeah.
but not at the sacrifice of being able to hear somebody. And same. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, no, just agreeing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
same in the world of coaching. So if my aim is to help people and to this is one of the principles I teach in the coaching training, is to follow the thread of the person that you're working with, not to be driving their car and like, go here now and do this now and look at this and what about that, but to let them drive the content, because it's their unconscious that they're driving into. And this is different than driving on the road. And it's very, what's the word, it can be very, is tenuous the right word? Or because sometimes people will touch down in the unconscious and they get burned, right? They find pain, they find something unexpected, they get shocked. We talked about shocks a lot.
Yeah.
And then, so it's very easy for them, if you're the one driving their process, then if they get shocked, they're immediately going to think you did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they're driving and you're clearly following their thread so that they're aware of it, and you're listening closely enough that you can in fact follow their thread, there's much less of that backing out of the process.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it kind of in line with the whole concept of our show today being staged. When you see, like, okay, in the main thing to realize, like when I'm teaching somebody acting, and like what we experienced in the previous course, is the first thing you have to realize is that you're always acting, right? So everybody says I can't act, I can't act. Well, you're always acting. You're just not consciously doing it. And so to that point, what you have to realize is that most of the time, because people are so self-deceptive, first, we lie to ourselves so much, we're not aware that we're acting. Most of the time when someone's talking to you, there's a veiled subtext, which is what they really want. They might ask you, hey, Beth, how's the weather? Right? They don't give a shit about the weather, right? That's not the reason. It might be a hot day and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so hot, I can't believe it, for Manitoba, right? Whatever it is. But what was the real reason? The real reason might be they want to get to know you more, to find out if you have a common interest, find out if you can help them in some way, right? But they're playing into an agenda, so the very text coming out of their mouth isn't actually genuine. And so when you start to realize that, because most of us are hypnotically self-deceiving ourselves all the time, we're not even aware that we're doing it. We can't even be honest, right? And so the world is set up like a stage, and our job is to first accept that everyone's lying most of the time anyway, and then become conscious of that, so you can actually bring the truth in, or consciously choose to act. But automatically, it's not the case. And the more you become aware, the more your consciousness is kind of refined, the more you see it automatically in everyone around you. That mechanical lying that's happening all the time, like they. And we call it small talk, or we call it, just shooting the shit or whatever. But there's always an agenda. And even if the agenda is just, I'm nervous and I don't know what to say, right? So it's like you get nervous, and then maybe you throw a distracting question out, or put the other person on the on the defensive of like asking them a hard question, because you don't know what to say, because we're not okay with silence. The reason we're not okay with silence is we're uncomfortable with ourselves. We don't know what we want. We have no aim. You see, it's unbelievably painful to think about your own existence and what you want. So much better to get into a distracting conversation. And that's where the whole world is a stage all the time. Becoming aware of it is where we have the opportunity to start changing things. But first you have to accept that it's all just kind of like a lot of lies. Like that's what social interaction is mostly deception.
Right, right. Yeah, this actually I had a moment the other night. There was someone who joined the House of Free Will new, and I always like to welcome them specially. So you might see that on the chats where if somebody joins, I'm not just going to let them join and fold into conversations. I want to make it possible, sort of like lubricate that. I think social lubrication is how people say it. And I was trying to think of just some way to open a conversation. Well, this is totally unlike me, but I ended up asking about the weather, right? Like that classic kind of like how's it going in Texas right now? Is it hot as anything? And I knew it wasn't the real topic. The real topic was connection and
Uh-huh.
invitation and welcoming that I just wanted them to feel free to have a discussion on the platform and to know that I'm approachable because not everybody necessarily has that knowledge. And but yet, so the weather was where we started, and we're like, oh, what are the places in the world that have the best weather all the time? So I went searching for that, and then shared that, and then someone shared something kind of like the associations you talk about, where in Portugal is the best place to homestead and start a new colony of people, and so that's but in a way, because I was aware of what I was doing, I didn't have the sense of necessarily, I did something false in this case, that it was something of an altruistic aim. I had an aim that I was aware of. So
Yeah, the mechanicalness is where you're identified with it and it becomes automatic. And then but if you're conscious of it, then it's up to you if you want to do that, right? Like it doesn't have to be that it's bad. Like you could choose, well, that's the way I'm going to welcome this person or make them feel disarmed. I mean, that might be your strategy, but the point was to become aware of it, right? So that your consciousness is on top of it. And then you're like, okay, I'm asking about the weather because it's an icebreaker and I don't really care about that, but I know that that'll be a good way to get the person to, maybe feel more comfortable. It's fine. It's fine. It's just what happens though is 99.9% of all of our talking is mechanical and unconscious. So we just do it automatically, like and then that's where it turns into that. You talked about Portugal. That's where it's like, oh my God, I love Portugal. My uncle went to Portugal for 8 years and he brought me back these wonderful, treats. And then you're like, oh wow, I have an uncle, and it's like, and we just, and what happens is you're just aimlessly going nowhere. Not that anything's bad, but it is a huge drain of your energy and your intent. And then it's like, ultimately, what do you really want? What's the purpose of you interacting with that person? And that takes a little bit more conscious effort. Because when you start jabbering like that, you could lose 3 hours, right, of just back and forth mechanical talking, and to realize it's not really serving anything. It's not that it's like, it wasn't wrong for you, right, to say something about the weather. It's just being aware of like, okay, I know why I'm doing this, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
I understand, like, and that's okay. I mean, yeah, it's nothing to feel bad about, or it's just more to be aware of, because that's the point, is that we're unaware.
Yeah, and working with you in the past months made me acutely aware of that in that moment, and I still wanted
Yeah.
to connect, and so,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
how it
you can do that,
goes, yeah.
right? Like if it's hot
Yeah.
and humid and nasty out, you go, "My God, what do you think of this weather?" That's not bad, right? Like you could just, the person's like, "Oh, I'm dying," and then you could use it very quick. It's just, the point is that to keep the consciousness to where you understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Mhm, mhm, exactly, yeah, so you're aware of acting rather than, like Audrey's saying, mechanically just going through the motions and not, having that awareness, so
Yeah.
and, thank you, Jackie. I was, being welcoming. Yeah, I feel strongly about that because the online world in particular as a stage, if we wanna call it that, can be socially very awkward. And my aim with the groups is that community forms, not just chats and oh, I know of that person, but like really getting to know each other. And then you'll know me that it doesn't stay shallow long. And if it stays there, like I just had the most beautiful interaction on my turkey pickup. At first, I thought I wasn't even going to see the person. There was just a box. I was grabbing the box, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And because we've had a few meetings, and we're starting to get to know each other. And
Mhm.
she was having her daughter was having trouble with her teeth, and I know a lot more about the nickel contribution to tooth decay now. And the conversation, I when I came away, it was important to both of us. It's a subject that both of us were very interested in, and I may have found a place to live through her, for example. And there was something just so satisfying in the exchange
Mhm.
in and of that. So yeah, it's yeah, that was just gonna say. And hello, Maya, nice to see you. I'm glad you are here. Uh, Yeah, very rare to have a genuine, pure conversation with anyone at your job. That's because the aim is not pure conversations. That was part of the torture for me of being in a job when I was working with my parents, and I was around people all day long that I really didn't have an interest to connect with. There wasn't there wasn't any shared depth of connection like I get to enjoy now, where we when we go into mechanicalness, it tends to be in
Mhm.
an arena that has potential for depth and meaning. So yeah, and it's easy to go to sleep in those conversations, Ali was saying. And it is nice to be friendly. There's something about it, like especially the opposite, rather than being unfriendly and cold and distant, kind of what I was getting at with the stage, where it's meant to create that distance between you and the people on stage, and how you can go into a sense of, oh, I'm inferior compared to these superior actors or performers, and I'm not one of them. And if you go to talk to them, you're all like jittery and nervous about it,
Mhm.
and can't just be yourself. That's something that I learned early on, that nobody wants that, to be put on a pedestal, and or all, actually some people do want that.
Yeah.
I also met those that as soon as you're on their level, they don't like it.
Mhm.
If you're not bowing down to them and you think they're all fantastic and that kind of thing. So do you think that the stage ends up on a place attracting people that are looking for separation,
I think it
unconsciously, of course?
I think it like a stage day would attract people that want attention more than anything. I would say just want to be exalted or feel accepted or be valued or have their like, validation for their existence. I mean, it covers if you get good at that, like then it's like, oh well, people love me, and it makes you feel good about yourself. And I think it's highly alluring. That way,
Yeah.
most actors I've ever known working with somebody, I would say most of them are primarily motivated by that. People that are coming to it. Mhm.
Right. Yeah, Lester Levinson, whose work I've taken a lot from, he would say that all of the performers, they want love and approval, which is one of the core root programs, as you know, that you feel
Mhm.
to lack love and the approval from others. So you go to the end of the earth in order to gain it,
Yeah.
and then likely compromise yourself along the way, or
Mhm.
do things that are out of integrity with yourself, your own morals
Yeah.
and your values. And then yeah, and the funny part is that you also hear the common stories where the actors find themselves isolated, and they're in a world that, yes, they have all this name and fame and maybe money to show for it, but they feel separate from the
Yes.
world, and they
Exactly.
can't even like just go out and do a normal thing because they get swarmed. And then the pride of, well, I am superior and you're inferior, which flips and flops. They'll also have both of those internal experiences that they had to suppress the inferior one to cope through. So yeah, that's when we feel to lack attention, it comes right down to survival as well. That the baby without attention will die.
Yeah, and then what with the ones getting the attention when they don't like so if you look at the statistics, like, um, writing has one of the highest suicide rates of all professions. It's one of
Wow.
yeah, yeah, because you're alone with yourself and your thoughts. It's acting is also extremely high. It's
Wow.
because they are think about it. if you are like, how many famous actors have killed themselves or OD'd? Quite a bit, right? Um, and then a lot of them die from just doing hard drugs all the time. Their heart goes out. They did way too much coke, and which is kind of like a type of suicidal behavior. And the reason is because if you are being loved and accepted and approved of for not being yourself at all, that puts a lot of pressure on who am I really? Because think about it, it's like I am loved and accepted as a fake person that I am in fact not. And if you have any conscience at all, that weighs on you a lot, and that can be really hard. And so without the right amount of like solidarity in yourself and doing the hard work inside, it can actually cause you to be so out of balance that it's just easier not to be alive anymore. And that's one thing it's hard to relate to, because if you're not rich and famous and successful and liked by everyone, you don't understand that how empty that can be, right? But those people then can often become more and more empty. And if you can read books and listen to many interviews of famous actors and that have wound up killing themselves because of that, that existential crisis.
Yeah. And if they don't kill themselves, or it's like you said, the slow death of the drugs, or just like being bitter and angry, and it's the disillusionment is baked right into that.
Yeah.
That chase.
Do you remember, like, it just, there's one random example comes to mind, but like, remember Paul Rubens that did Pee Wee Herman? Do you remember Pee Wee Herman?
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So he was never successful or anything as an actor or comedian until he did that show. And then it took off so well. And now he's making these big, the Tim Burton's Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then the sequel. And he was a really big deal. And if you like, just an example of him is he got to where he was living basically as Pee-wee all the time because people loved him then. They didn't like him as Paul Rubens, right? And he got into a lot of mental health issues, and and it's just an example because maybe people know that's just one example. But it's like, oh, when I'm Pee-wee, everybody likes me, and you just become more and more that person that's just a made up character, and that's an empty thing then, because if you don't really know, that's where the psychological distress can come from. Is like, oh my God, my world is so fake, and then you just feel like a fraud and a liar all the time.
Right. And kind of drilling down into identity, the who am I? And so there's this internal mechanism that we've already talked about, that you want to escape who you are. You don't want to feel and see and know about yourself, and see the lies, see the staging. And then in that escape there, you can completely lose yourself. What you're talking about with Pee Wee Herman, like, he literally did not have an existence outside of that identity. So it had to be what he was. He had to pretend that. And so then the identity, this is something that's been pretty common in personal development circles, where if you lack identity, that you need to go get that. And then, a nation is there to create identity for you, that you have a nation state, that, oh, I'm Canadian, and these kind of things. And so do you want to talk about the nature of identity and how that functions in our psyche? And is it necessary? I'll just quickly say hello to Luniverse. Nice to have you in the chat. And she also said how illegitimate an actor would feel not being known for themselves. Right, exactly. And Audrey said, do you want to say something, Micah?
No, I'm just listening to you.
Okay. She said, when I have engaging conversations with strangers, I leave them feeling a sense of being full, like after I eat a LYL meal. Nice. That's beautiful. That's an intention. And so identity, it's that tricky. Like, do we actually need an identity, or is that a lie of our society, do you think?
Well, that's a good question. That's kind of the crux of a lot of the Gurdjieff work, with the first realizing that what we have are false personalities and we are identified with them. The real, a lot of like esoteric teachings and stuff that kind of get into like mystical, spiritual stuff, are centered around the idea that there's a part of you which really can't be identified, which is the real you, right? It can't be put into words. They can't be codified that way. And we have to become comfortable with that. It's a being, right? Like you're coming from a place of being that, but instead we have identification, meaning it's a false construct that we are artificially putting our sense of I into. But most of us do. I mean, the easiest way to see it is 99.9% of people you meet, if you meet someone new, what's probably the first thing they're going to ask you, or one of the first things in the first like minute?
What do you do?
What do you do? Right. Which is really funny because you could say, well, I eat and I sleep and I poop sometimes, you know. But it's always, what do you do? Right. And then, you know, and then immediately we know what that means, which is, what is your profession? What do you do for income or money? And that's a great example of identity. Like we've identified with it so much so that like most people think they are that thing, and then they almost feel completely empty or lost without it. It's also why too, it's part of the reason why I know you mean, I'm sure you've heard of this, but the vast majority of people that retire die within 3 years. It's like over 70%. Yeah. And it's people say, well, it's because they're not active. Yeah, that might be part of it. It's really, they don't have an identity anymore. You see, I just worked 40 years at the aluminum stamping plant, and I was I was the manager over this shift, and I knew and it's like all that's stripped away now. And what do you do with your day? And you just feel this empty sense because there was never any real sense of self in the first place. It was all artificial. And we do that through our career or through our culture, like community status, religious status, all those types of things that we do. And we create an identity. We really have multiples, quite a few. But that's the problem is that everyone's doing it, and it's baked into the structure of this civilization thing. I mean, you're almost considered a wacko if you don't have one. Right. If someone
exactly.
Have you ever not answered that direct? I mean, it gets people really weird really quick.
Yeah, exactly. They need to evaluate the value of how they perceive you, or you value what you do.
Are you a janitor?
Exactly. Right? Where are we exactly relative to each other? And Ali said creating new and better identity is big in the new age movement, because that can be one of those buzz, like, you create a new improved identity compared to your old one. And when you were talking, it was like when that identity dies, say at retirement, and is it that the false personalities would literally be starving at that point, that you're not feeding them?
No,
in the role?
No, it's not that the fault. No, because we've talked about this before. The false personalities will feed on anything. So it's really you and your soul are dying, because what kept you motivated at all was a delusion. It's kind of like if somebody spent 50 years, say, creating a painting, and then the painting burned, right? And they never got to share it. And then it's like this devastating sense of emptiness was, and so you kind of, it's a failure to thrive, right? If you notice that people stop eating as much, they stop taking care of themselves, they start bombing themselves out with drugs and alcohol and comfort food, and they just inevitably perish because there's no meaning anymore. And then the meaning they did have was kind of empty. It's like when your entire life was just your job, think about how hollow that is at the end, where you're like, so ultimately this corporation I worked for that doesn't care about me, with people that won't remember me. You see, it's really dark, really fast when you actually look at it like that.
Exactly, the quintessential. And now I have a watch for 40 years of my blood, sweat, and tears, and it's utterly meaningless and lacking in purpose. Jackie said is very right on. Yeah, and then I can see now what you're talking about, that it's not really starving the false personalities. It, in fact, has the potential to do the opposite. That, well, not the opposite. What am I saying? That losing your identity can be fantastic if you know what to do with it, right? Because the average person without the training, which we don't have, is going to spiral from that. They're going to, right? They're going to think that they are going to cease to exist. It becomes a literal fear of dying, which most people can't admit or feel for the most part. But if you're really honest with yourself, that's what it does. I had a little brush with it last summer. I know I've told you, where I lost use of both my hands for a time and I kept injuring myself. because of that. And then I like systematically was watching my world dissolve, like losing my independence, losing my work, losing my ability to even type on a keyboard and to do basic functions, and to get through that and make use of it, turn it into work, like Gurdjieff would say, and let it be the work of freedom. Then I let myself die. I let my independence go. I let my work dissolve into nothingness. I allowed that to happen. I let myself go to zero. And it was a very healing and liberating place,
Mm-hmm.
which that poignant, intense experience allowed me to go into. But without the knowledge of that, I could have still been in a depression, or now on drugs, or whatever it moved me to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, we lack for that training. When I left my work after being diagnosed with a lymphoma, it was my ticket out, unfortunately. My dad said I was killing myself by leaving work,
Yeah.
right? Because he saw that that's exactly where he expected my identity to be tied up in that. It wasn't actually.
Right.
It was a means to an end for me. It wasn't who I was, like it is
Yeah.
who he
That's
was.
exactly it. Because see, like in that worldview that he was in at that time, what's the point of it even existing then? Like you
Yeah,
see, like what? You're not gonna stay at your job. What? Like then you're dead. You see, it's like we literally equate it like that, you know?
that's it. That's it. Yeah. 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 My family did the same thing when I was a teenage runaway. That
Mm.
not all of them, more on my dad's side, it was some kind of training there, that they considered me dead, that I had stepped so far out of the norm of what was expected. Then they had to write me off and consider I didn't exist anymore. That was
Yeah.
charged. Hmm.
Yeah. It's again, it's identifying you as a label. We have, it puts you in a box, but that's the way that everyone is conditioned to be, right? It's like if you've ever known anyone that has certain, like a lot of times this happens, like say with certain religious beliefs. The moment somebody sees that you don't believe or are congruent with what they assumed you were, it's like they have to painfully make you non-existent, right? And because it threatens their worldview, right? And they're that's how addicted we are to identification, is that we almost can't tolerate it if someone isn't a long time ago, one of my first high level coaches that I worked with, I don't know if you know him or not. He has some best selling books. His name's Stephen Chandler, and he wrote that book, 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself, that you always see at like FedEx or the airport. And he was fantastic. But one of the first things he taught me when we were working together is you have no personality. And like, that's shocking to hear, but then it's like, no, what you think. And he discovered that the funny thing is, from studying acting, he took acting just for personal development reasons and realized, oh my God, this thing that we think is so real, our personality is fluid and doesn't actually exist the way that we think it does. And that's the first big limiting hurdle for a lot of people, is realize I'm just kind of bullshitting and faking my own reality all the time. Anyway, the problem is I believe it. It's one thing
Exactly.
to do it, but but if you believe it, now there you got a real problem. And that's what
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Yeah, you said a lot there, that the worldview is a stage, right?
Mhm.
And it's got a certain code of like, here's the stage, and if you can fit into this stage, then you exist, and
Yep.
I'll allow you into my consciousness and consider you human.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then there's going to be a removal of your character. We're going to kill your character off
Mhm.
and throw them down the stairs or whatever is
Mhm.
necessary to off them. So yeah, the worldview, it's such a stage. And how do you liberate yourself from world views? This is very related to the hopium video this morning that I saw, by the way. See if I can grab that link direct.
How do you liberate from the worldview? Well, first, to realize that you have one. We don't think we do. We just think we're seeing the truth.
Hmm.
Right? Like we all have the illusion. It's kind of like, I mean, very biologically, what we perceive in front of us, we think is all of reality, when in fact, that's just what my brain is condensing and rendering based on the impressions that my eyes are taking in. I
Yeah.
don't see but a tiny sliver of the reality even in front of me physically. But when it feels like the case, you see, it feels like, oh, I see everything in front of me right now, and that's all that there is. But there's so much that I'm not seeing, right? And the first thing would be to realize that our inner world is exactly like that. And so a worldview is that we have our own lens or bias towards reality. That first we have to realize, oh, you mean I'm using a lens? You mean I have a perspective? Instead of saying, I just see the truth. That's the big distinction, is to realize you're already filtering and bending reality. First, accept that you are. You have no chance if you don't see that you're already doing it.
That was the humbling thing about having participated in the truth and freedom movement, is that now coming this far into it, since about 2015 or something, it's taken me more than 10 years, but to realize that most of it was another worldview. I just adopted, I dropped the other worldview, I adopted their worldview, and it played right into the controlled demolition.
Yeah. That's right. It's like, oh, your standard American diet. Oh, you're a vegan now, oh, you're, keto, carnivore. You don't realize you're just taking on another paradigm altogether.
Yeah. White flour is like cocaine, or white sugar is like cocaine, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I did share that.
You see, but what happens is we are magnetized to identify. So this is how cults work. They have a prepackaged deal set up for you, right? When you're hungry for the answer, someone has it burning for you, and here it is, the packaged deal, right? And we want that. And because then immediately that taps into all of our base impulses as a tribal creature, oh my God, I know who I am now. I know who my friends are. But it's a false sense of meaning. It's a facade. Yeah. But it feels good. Yeah.
Exactly. Yesterday in Manitoba, apparently someone vandalized one of the Pride flags that's up and around in our Pride Month here. It's about to end about 4 days where it's going to be over. And then, so you go to the comments on the Twitter thing and they're all going like, good, that's awesome. It's a cult. It's a cult, like this. And it's the same, exactly the same thing. I actually did a search the other day, just tongue in cheek, how to start a cult. Well, I found hundreds of serious articles on how to start a cult. So it's like that what you're talking about, the identification, is so understood from that level, that people need and want that identification, or they're magnetized to it. And would you consider that to be a false magnetic center?
It's not, well, yeah. It's not the magnetic center of the word, but it is like that, where the draw, oh, wow, structure, meaning, significance, contribution, acceptance, right? Family. Friends. I get all that. I get identity, right? I know who I am now, right? And it's so alluring to us. So there's no end of people willing to peddle it.
Right. And then there's a terror when you realize you don't know who you are, right?
Yes. That's one of the most terrifying things that any human can actually come to terms with.
Yeah, exactly. It's become a downright practice to let my identity go, who I think I am. I've learned to at least recognize how uncomfortable it is at times to even have the identity, how expensive it is energetically, and to uphold this and always be portraying something. That's why, my value I'm not saying that I was able really to accomplish it, but my value was always to be myself. I noticed that I could spend the least amount of energy that way. And
lies are very expensive. All lies are expensive. The truth is cheap and sustainable. So this is, you see, you get more, you gain more, because the lie is, that's like your American Express black card. You can just keep swiping that thing and the debt gets bigger and bigger, and until eventually you're never going to pay it off. That's what reality is like. We don't realize, like, all these lies, the identification stuff is costing you. You're draining your energy. You're putting yourself in a debt that you don't even understand. Right?
It's compounding debt.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Every lie you have to build on that lie and keep up with the lies and all that kind of thing. So yeah, and it's tricky because I feel like I'm not surrounded by people who actively lie. Thank God, there because there are those out there more on the sociopathic or psychopathic side, but the lying that we're pointing towards to now, this inner stage, is so invisible.
Yes.
And so, what is it that's going to drive someone to want to see that rather than just answer the internal mechanism that buffers against seeing it? Wh- Is it like, yeah,
Yeah. So at first, first it's kind of a foreign concept because most people have this inherent sense that they are truthful. If 99% of people would describe themselves as honest, they'll say, "Oh, I'm an honest person." We're not talking about sociopathic lying, like what you mentioned, where someone's deeply calculating a plan to deceive someone, right? We're talking about automatic unconscious lying that you're addicted to, that you were raised to be just like your family and community, and that's all part of the false personality structure. And it's all lies, but it's not that you're conscious of it. The reason that the way that we get into it first is become conscious of the fact that it's happening at all. And the more you bring conscious awareness to it, the more it can begin to dissolve, the more room you have to realize, oh, like, for example, when we say something to someone, why did we really say it to them? Can we be really honest with ourselves, right? Why did you go pat the person on the back and tell them hello? What was the real reason? Because oftentimes you realize, I guess I did it because I wanted them to like me, right? You see, you start to realize, like, okay, I had a little bit of an agenda. There was a small lie there, right? And that's what, through all the work that we do in our course and stuff, going using the archetypes for self-remembering, this is the entire thing that we're going to create, is through experience to begin to see the active lying and deception that's happening in real time. So you can begin to grow your agency around truth, which has immense power to it. But it's a skill. Like, it's a skill. It's like learning to, juggle or something. You're going to have to learn how to do it. You're not used to doing it, right? And
mhm.
it's awkward at first, right? The more truthful we are, the more difficult it is. It's like the weight gets heavier.
Yeah, juggling is a good metaphor for anyone that might have taken that on to learn even the first. First you start with juggling two,
Hmm. Yeah,
right, and even that's like some kind of coordination. You get a third in there, it's like it just falls apart. So yeah, it can be like that. And then I want to give my community credit that a lot of them are not in that necessarily in that beginner place. They might have taken up their hand. Normally, what in my from my perspective, where drives people to start dismantling false identities is some kind of breakdown, or it
yeah.
can be. It's not always, but
Well,
it's a big loss, a crash of some kind. Things fall apart. Somebody dies. They the rug pulls out from underneath them. I think you get that. And so then they are as if forced. There's something that they get leveled,
right.
and then they have no choice to go on with normal life. This is like the hero's journey, that 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 calling. If ordinary life keeps going, then why are you going to step out and do anything remarkable and start taking on the demons and the dragons at any level?
Yeah, I mean, in recovery, they call it rock bottom. It's when you finally had your threshold of pain that's enough to get you to see the delusion, the self-deception. Because a lot of, like, in people that have been through like an immense amount of that, like if it's a drug addiction or gambling or something, they had to get to a point where the pain was so immense, the disarray of their life was so unmanageable that it shocks them hard enough they realize, oh, I have a problem. Because really before that, they didn't have that real sense of, I have a problem, right? And that's where the beginning of the self-deception ends, right? As you start to see, oh my God, I've been lying to myself, and I have a serious addiction or a serious problem, and I need really serious help. So, like, when you're saying to some of your community, like, if your community being people that have already started working on themselves, they've done that kind of work, so they're more open and already down the path of like accepting that you have work to do. But most people aren't even there, right? Like, most people never will go to therapy in their entire life. And I'm not saying someone should or shouldn't. But do you get what I mean? Most people will never even do that. There's such a stigma around it that and you try talking to somebody about it that might need to go to therapy, right? Like they might have some serious distress and they're immediately go, oh, I'm not crazy. I don't need therapy. Do you know what I mean? There's such an aversion to any type of self-work, personal development. It's just immediately like, no, let's not do that. And
Yeah, yeah. And they'll go and like, oh, it's not that bad after they just told you a terrible story. I
yeah.
remember that it was so confusing when I was quite young, and my girlfriend exposed the severe abuse she was going through in her husband's family, and at the hands of her husband and the family, and they were ganging up on her, and there was some rape, and it was and then I'm like, oh my God, I have to, let's change this. She's enrolled me in the program, and I'm on it. And then the glaze, it just like she glazed over it, and it was a no. And I never said that. It never happened. It's not that bad.
That's right.
And she had to pull completely away from me from that one moment of telling the truth around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you become a threat then if somebody reveals that to you, then the moment that they want to go back into denial, you're now a threat because you can hold them accountable. And oftentimes you'll see they just have to leave that relationship altogether because it's too painful for them to even be around you. You see, you're too much you're just a threat, whether you say it or not. The fact that just that is scary. And that happens,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Jackie K is such a cynic now. I know that's another sort of like trap or thing to get. And I'm not holding it against you, Jackie, in any way. There's so much fodder for us to become cynical, and yet it can be another version of ourself that. Anyway, I'm the same. I question everything like crazy, and.
Yeah.
What did she say also? That did that with a few law groups until you eventually saw through each one. Good for you. There's a lot of people that still are really stuck in that world, stuck or staged in that world and invested in that world. And there's now money flowing quite freely in that world. And yeah, easy to get stuck in there for sure. LeBrad Pass is here. Nice to see you. You're looking forward to this one. Can't wait to watch later. Fantastic. And then, yeah, I caught that, Jackie, the earlier thing about the law. So yeah, that threshold of pain is one way where people can have a breakdown, and then we can also learn vicariously from others. So someone else's life can be a stage for you. That's a function that I've served, actually, where I took the big fall, not that it's so noble or I did it intentionally or anything. It just, that's how it worked out. And then people can take watching me go through a major breakdown and not have to go so far, because my experience is that there actually is no bottom. There's only the bottom that you make, that you call it a bottom. Because when you say to yourself, oh, it can't get any worse, it can.
Right.
It can always get worse.
Yeah. And like to Jackie's point, what's the point of being cynical? We're all going to die anyway.
Yeah, that's the depths of cynicism right there.
Yeah, so you do. There's some. It becomes actually there's a draw to it because it feels what does it give you, right? Gives you what's
a buffer. It's a buffer against the pain.
It gives you a sense of certainty. Everything sucks and nothing's going to work out, right? Like everybody's a piece of crap and deceptive. The world's bad. And believe it or not, that becomes comforting. And like I said, a buffer too. Yeah. And it does. And so it's we have to realize like, oh, am I cynical because like, why am I actually cynical? Or for example, and I'm just joking with Jackie there, but
yeah, exactly. We're not picking on you, Jackie. We'll just keep talking about this for a while. I wanted to say, she said she just wanted empowerment to stand up for yourself. Well, exactly. That was the draw. I mean, I was actively seeking it out, praying to God for solutions in law. And so then, I was really fodder for that for quite a time. I was going to say that there does come a point where there's an internal payoff. This is part of the internal stage that when you say, we'll just keep on. Yeah, I think she's fine. She's got a strong self-concept that say people who do use cynicism as a modus operandi way to get through their life, then the payoff might be you don't have to do anything.
Right.
You don't have to risk anything. You don't have to create and put something out with no certainty of any kind, whether it's going to be successful or not. That's why I have a lot of respect for people like you, for entrepreneurs, that the creators that put themselves out and then face this. There's no guarantee
Hmm.
that it's going to work or anything's going to happen the way that you hope
Yeah.
it will, right?
Yeah. But the cynic, if you're totally like just checked out, like it keeps you from ever having, like you said, to pay the cost of taking the risk of like I mean, just to bring him back up again, only because when I was talking about Stephen Chandler earlier, one of the other things that he taught me was the most cowardly people were lazy, because he realized like lazy, and he meant that about himself, like laziness was cowardice, because ultimately the laziness was to keep you out of act. The whole purpose of it is really so you don't take any action at all.
Right, exactly. And so back to, I think it was the same fellow you said took on acting as personal development.
Yes.
What is the personal development? Now I've had a little experience of that in doing our first course together. And so what are the mechanics of that compared to like the aspirations of being on the stage and being adored and getting everyone's love and approval? How can you use acting for personal development?
Well, when you're okay, so most people that are going to come and study acting like professionally, right? They have the intent of being a famous actor or being successful. But if you were to come at it from a level of self-discovery, right? Your goal isn't that. You're like, well, I don't want to be in a movie or a TV show or anything. So why would you do it? Well, it's an incredibly empowering way of learning who you are and how you operate inside, the mechanics of your psyche, and how and it actually can help you. Like what we do in the course is we learn to tell the truth, right? That's, I think that's the shocking thing to people, is they think that acting is about faking something, but it's actually about making something real, right? And if you can do that, it gives you a powerful ability to work on yourself and transform things in your of course within your personality, but really getting to the essence of who you are, going at a deeper level to discover your real truth, and then how can you express it, and how can you navigate life in a different way. And the funny thing is, to bring Stephen Chandler back up, when he took the acting course, that gave him the shock that he could maybe be a motivational speaker. He didn't want to ever talk in front of people. He had a terrible fear of it. But getting comfortable with that started opening him up to, oh my God, there was something here that felt real that I didn't know that I had within me. And that gave him a sense of liberation to realize, like, oh, my whole personality is kind of made up anyway. Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful side effect that there is. Of course, everyone has usually both. This is what I notice in the coaching work. They desire to be seen. They really want to be seen. They want to be heard, and they have an equal fear of being seen.
Yeah.
Right. So these two, they argue with each other, and usually people err on the side of never actually showing themselves. And it is an act of bravery to get up in front of even like a group that is all with a common aim, and nobody's taking notes and evaluating your acting. But in a way, that happens anyway, right? Are they believable or are they not believable? So this is a great revelation, what you're talking about, that the best actors are actually being more authentic,
That's right.
not
That's
putting on, right?
Yeah.
And
They're
so that,
sliding into the role more, allowing it to become more real. Right. The emotions become real. Yeah.
right, the emotions are real. They're not, and we know everybody who fakes emotions. Toddlers try it, then oh, so sad or something, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, you can see through that. And yeah, so it was a beautiful thing. I found it was hugely high value for personal development, in a way that some people, again, just need to get out and face that. Some people are more afraid to die than they are to speak publicly, or pardon me, did I say it the back way? They're actually more afraid to speak. Yeah, they're more afraid to speak and be seen. on any kind of a stage than they are of death itself. And this is very liberating, just to get up and do the thing and see that you don't die. Your nervous system actually gets to grow in the process because you're sending
Mhm.
a lot of energy through it. It's got to
Mhm.
accommodate for that, and you might think it's going to throw you off, but it doesn't. And then yeah, what you get to see about yourself, I found, was remarkable. And it's not like you were sitting there saying, oh, watch for this or she did that. It was my own inner reflection that, having seen myself on a stage, that I got to see where I wasn't telling the truth.
Yes. You get the experience of it, which you can't read about, you can't watch, you have to experience. And then when you see other people going through those experiences, you get this osmosis too, as you see them have the aha moments, and you're like, oh my God, now I see myself in a different way. So that's really what the work that we're doing is it must be experience. I don't think it can be just completely secondhand. You won't get the same impact.
Right, right. And yet you do get a lot of benefit, like you just said, about vicariously watching other people do it. There's something pretty almost exciting about it. And there's cheering. People are always like, "Oh my God, that was great! You did great."
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been really fun, and that experience is, to me, that's the meat of it, because we can sit and talk about it all day long. We
Yeah.
can write about it and read about it and pontificate and theorize and all of this kind of stuff. But when you throw yourself actually into the work, then that's when true transformation can happen. Not everybody wants that, but for those who already have a hunger for it, then this is the bomb. And so we do have a workshop series coming up called Self Remembering with Archetypes. I can grab a link. And because there is still a body of knowledge, like you might have heard already, Micah has talked a lot about Gurdjieff's work. We've done a number of snippets in the House of Free Will. I think we're up to 10 on Gurdjieff's work. We've done those 4 private videos now that people can sign up just by putting your hand up some way. Send me an email, contact me on Telegram, put your hand up here in the chat, and I'll with your email, but don't put the @ sign so that bots don't get that. Just make it something I can copy and paste. And so we are providing as a bonus the End of the False Self course, because you gave a lot of the knowledge there. You gave a lot of the theory behind the mechanics of how false personalities work. It is really good foundation. But for this workshop series, I wanted to go right into the experience of it.
Yeah.
And just do the work, not talk about the work. That's honestly, it's one of my pet peeves about how I'm perceiving the way that Gurdjieff work has happened, that it's almost like they're always kept at the beginning. You don't know anything, you can't do anything, you're blind to your whole self. And yes, there are times when that's true. And then there are people who are brave enough to start peeling back some of the layers and looking at themselves, and moving into greater purpose that way, and self-knowledge. And so to me, this is the best of the both worlds. We're giving them that material and the background, and providing the deep end for those that want to just dive.
Yeah, yeah, will be a lot of action. I mean, then there's enough theory that, I mean, plus you can read about, his teachings and study them on your own as much as you want, because all that stuff is available and publicly. So you can get a lot of it for free. But it's really the doing that matters, right? It's the doing. And that's it's just like working out. Like, we could talk about working out all the time and lift, strength training, but does that actually make you any more fit or any stronger? No. But it can give you the placebo. It's like not bad to do it. Like, the theory is important, but without the actual application, nothing was transformed. No work was done. So what we're doing is the work. We're going to get into action, and then the results come. So our goal is the results, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind just grabbing a link for people so they can have a look. And I was just looking at the Yeah, in terms of say our inner staging, what we're constantly doing all day long and who we feel we need to be ultimately in order to survive. This is something that when you get a really clear picture at the mechanisms that keep that in place, there's something it is, I always call it a revelation when you see, even again, you can hear me talk about programs. I'm sure you ad nauseum, I've talked about programs. And then when you see a program, even if you've seen them hundreds or thousands of times, which you will when you decide to look into the work, and then you go, "Oh, that's a program." I had that last night where I got into a certain place, and then I have a very familiar false personality, and there it was, but it had been running for a couple of hours without any vigilance on my part or, interfering with it. And then it was like, "Oh, there it is." And the lights went on, and I was finally able to do some work before I went to bed and didn't sleep last night. Thanks, Nickel. Uh, Detox for those purposes. But yeah, the revelation is where it's at, the direct actual seeing of things, so that it's not academic. It's not just something we talk about, feel good about, and then go home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what is the best. I think I'll just grab the link because we do have an early bird set up. It's only for the next 4 days now. June 30th is going to be the end of our early bird. So I want to give people half a chance to actually see this. And the video series that we did is a super great preparation. Yes, go and read the books. I know I've got so much benefit, even just um, going on YouTube, and you can find the audios of all of these, the In Search of the Miraculous, and a bunch of The Fourth Way is there on audio. So that gave me a chance to look in and just see, is this something I can resonate with? And then finally, now I'm buying the books and going to go through with a fine tooth comb and look at it. And so I did share a link, and the workshop series, like I said, it's starting July 9th. It is going to go on for 9 weeks. There's 1 week off while we go to the Redwoods. And that gives people a chance to go deeper into some partner work. We're going to partner everybody up. So the say coaching, acting coaching work that you're going to do, not coaching work, but the acting, practicing tools and techniques, you're going to be able to practice them with your partner as well and have fun with that. And it's going to combine the archetypes of the hero's journey as a meaningful progression through the archetypes, and because everybody knows there's a quintessential signature feeling when you're in the child archetype. Like, I'm just a little somebody and I don't know what's going on and who's trying to kill me and everything. Like, I go right into my little sister, actually, is who I was just mimicking in that the rebel archetype, boom, you have a sense of that, the edginess, very starkly different from the child, from the rebel. The warrior has some differences, and on through those 8 archetypes, they really bring out different sides of yourself. And in this context, they have permission to express fully for the purpose of knowing who you are and knowing what's real and knowing what's false. So is there anything more you want to say about that before we start to wrap up?
I mean, yeah, that's a good description. I would say the self-remembering part, for those that may not be as familiar. So that is a Gurdjieff term, which is the idea that you can activate a part of your consciousness that's kind of free from identification. It's a very self-aware state. And that's what we're doing through the work, is giving you the sense of seeing what's false, how it works in a fun experimental environment of the scenes that we do. And then you can feel what it's like to get to that place, like you would call freedom, Beth, that your consciousness is elevated and you are clear for a moment, maybe longer, of the personality, of all the false mechanicalness in you. And that's a very powerful place to be, to create from, to change your life from. And so the more we do that, the more powerful it is, the longer you can sustain that. So that's what we're using the archetypes for, is to design the structure, the hero's journey structure that we're going to be acting through, so that everyone can get get a taste of that experience, because really you have to taste it to know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this is for the rare souls out there. There's one in the chat here. Michelle, welcome. Nice to see you. Glad to have you in the room today. And so, yeah, I feel like we kind of covered what we were setting out to do today. And this has been great. I always love Fridays because it is the Beth of Fresh Air Day. And it gives me great happiness to always see you guys. And so, like I said, there are 4 really cool videos that it initially wasn't really going to turn into anything, and then we keep adding to it. So if you'd like to have those, there's no sign up link for it. You have to be connected with me already. You can go to my website. Like I said, use a contact page. On my about page, there's a form. You can, on the front of the homepage at bethmartins.com, you can do an archetype quiz if you haven't already. If you have already and you want to repeat it, you just have to message me to let you know. And then, so yeah, at bethmartins.com, connect with me at any way. Say, hey, I'd like to see those videos that you and Micah did that are only for those people that are truly interested in self-remembering. Because one of the most tragic things is when you try to give knowledge where it's not wanted and asked for. And, I love everybody in my community, but there's some people that are more hungry for this kind of thing. They want to get involved. They want to be part of the House of Free Will. They want to actually do the work, make the changes in their own life and grow. I see people grow every day. It's miraculous and such a privilege as well in my life. So yeah, just go to bethmartins.com and you'll find any way to connect there, or on Telegram. And Benjamin Balderson is in the room just in time for us to end out for today. But welcome. I'm glad to have you here. And I think that's all. So then have a beautiful rest of your day. And Mike, I thank you for joining me once again. It's been really a pleasure to work with you.
Okay, great to talk to everyone. Look forward to seeing you in the class.
Fantastic. And it was good seeing us anyway, no doubt. All right, my dears, lots of love. I'm going to set us up with a outro music, and we shall see you soon. Bye for now.
Oh, my true guide, Lord and supporter of all, forever free from identity. Be well, I'm dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Vedrashkanu manta, Shivarta Gupta, Maheshwara, Paramatme Dijapi Yokto, Deyasmin Purusha Para, Deyasmin Purusha Para, Deyasmin Purusha